Sometimes life presents us with challenges that seem impossible to navigate. We try to piece together the puzzle only to find that the pieces don't fit. It's in these moments when we feel the most lost that we need to remember, don't try to figure it out. Allow God to work it out for you. This is a story of trust, patience, and the unwavering power of faith. My own journey is a testimony of how trusting God can transform the darkest moments into a testament of His glory. When I was at the lowest point of my life, I felt completely overwhelmed by the circumstances around me. Nothing made sense, and no matter how hard I tried to figure out a solution, I just couldn't see a way out. Then I decided to let go and let God take control. It wasn't easy, but it was the best decision I ever made. I remember the nights spent in tears, questioning why things were happening the way they were. The uncertainty was suffocating. But in those moments of despair, I found a quiet voice within me urging me to trust in God's plan. It was a whisper of hope amidst the chaos, and it gave me the strength to keep going. As I began to let go of my need to control every detail, I noticed a change in my spirit. The anxiety that had gripped my heart started to loosen its hold. I realized that by trying to figure everything out on my own, I was missing out on the peace that comes from surrendering to God's will. One of the most profound moments of my journey was when I finally accepted that I didn't have all the answers. It was humbling to admit that I needed God's guidance. I began to pray more earnestly, seeking His wisdom and direction. Each prayer was a step closer to understanding that God's plans are far greater than our own. I started to see small signs that God was working in my life. Opportunities that I hadn't considered before began to appear. Relationships that I thought were broken beyond repair started to heal. It was as if God was slowly putting the pieces of my life back together in ways I couldn't have imagined. One particular incident stands out to me. I had been struggling with a decision about my career. No matter how many pros and cons lists I made, I couldn't find clarity. In a moment of frustration, I prayed for guidance. The very next day, an unexpected job offer came my way. It was a position that perfectly aligned with my skills and passions, something I hadn't even considered before. It was clear to me that God was orchestrating things behind the scenes. Another powerful testament to God's faithfulness was in my relationships. I had been estranged from a close friend for years, and despite my attempts to reconcile, nothing seemed to work. I decided to stop trying to force a resolution, and instead, I prayed for healing. Months later, out of the blue, my friend reached out to me. We were able to have an open, honest conversation and mend our relationship. It was a reminder that God's timing is perfect. There were also financial struggles that seemed insurmountable. Bills piled up and I couldn't see a way to make ends meet. Instead of panicking, I prayed for provision. Miraculously, unexpected sources of income appeared. A freelance project, a generous gift from a family member, and even finding money I had forgotten about all helped to alleviate the burden. Each time, I was reminded of God's promise to provide for our needs. Health issues were another area where I saw God's hand at work. I was diagnosed with a condition that doctors said would require extensive treatment. The prognosis was daunting and I was terrified. But I chose to place my trust in God. Throughout the treatment process, I experienced a peace that defied understanding. Not only did I make a full recovery, but the journey also strengthened my faith and deepened my reliance on God. Through each of these experiences, I learned the importance of patience. God's timing is not our timing, and His ways are higher than our ways. There were moments when I wanted immediate answers and quick fixes, but God was teaching me to wait on Him. Waiting is not a passive activity, it's an active demonstration of trust. In the waiting, I found a deeper relationship with God. I spent more time in prayer and in reading His Word. I sought out verses that spoke to my heart and provided comfort. Isaiah 55:8-9 became a cornerstone for me. For my thoughts are not your thoughts, neither are your ways my ways. declares the Lord. As the heavens are higher than the earth, so are my ways higher than your ways, higher than your ways, and my thoughts than your thoughts. God's plans often unfold in ways that we can't predict. When I look back on my journey, I can see how each twist and turn was leading me to where I needed to be. The very obstacles that seemed insurmountable were the ones that shaped me and prepared me for the blessings that were to come. I've come to understand that our struggles are not in vain. They serve a purpose, even if that purpose isn't immediately clear. God uses our trials to refine us, to build our character, and to draw us closer to Him. It's in the fire that we are purified and made stronger. Trusting God doesn't mean that life will be free of difficulties. In fact, Jesus tells us in John 16:33, "In this world you will have trouble, but take heart, I have overcome the world." The promise is not the absence of trouble, but the presence of peace and assurance that God is with us through it all. One of the most liberating realizations for me was understanding that I don't have to carry the weight of the world on my shoulders. God invites us to cast our burdens on Him because He cares for us. This isn't just a comforting thought. It's a practical invitation to experience freedom from anxiety and worry. There were times when I was tempted to take matters back into my own hands. I wanted to solve problems quickly and move forward, but each time I tried to rush the process, I found myself back at square one, frustrated and exhausted. It was a lesson in surrendering daily, sometimes even moment by moment. As I reflect on my journey, I see how God's hand was guiding me even when I wasn't aware of it. The closed doors, the detours, and the delays all had a purpose. They were steering me towards a path that I couldn't have envisioned on my own. God's plans were unfolding perfectly, even when I couldn't see it. One particularly challenging season involved a move to a new city. It was a leap of faith, leaving behind the familiar and stepping into the unknown. There were moments of doubt and fear, but I clung to the promise that God would never leave me nor forsake me. In time, I found a supportive community, meaningful work, and a deeper sense of purpose. It was a testament to God's provision and faithfulness. Through it all, I learned to celebrate the small victories. Every answered prayer, no matter how seemingly insignificant, was a reminder of God's attentiveness to my needs. These moments of divine intervention, whether big or small, built my faith and trust in God's perfect timing. I also learned the value of gratitude. Instead of focusing on what I didn't have or what wasn't going according to plan, I started to thank God for what He was doing in my life. This shift in perspective changed everything. Gratitude opened my eyes to the blessings that were already present and helped me to see God's hand at work in every situation. One of the most beautiful aspects of trusting God is the transformation that takes place within us. As we let go of our need to control and figure things out, we make room for God to work in our hearts. He shapes us, molds us, and prepares us for the plans He has in store. The journey of faith is not a straight path. It's filled with ups and downs, twists and turns. But each step, no matter how uncertain, is a step closer to God. He is with us in the valleys and on the mountain tops, guiding us with His loving hand. One of the most profound lessons I've learned is that God's timing is perfect. There were moments when I felt like I was waiting forever for an answer, but looking back, I can see how everything unfolded exactly when it needed to. God's delays are not His denials. They are part of His greater plan. I remember a time when I was praying for a breakthrough in my career. I had been working hard and felt like I was stuck in a rut. I wanted a promotion, recognition, something to validate my efforts, but nothing seemed to happen. It was frustrating, and I felt overlooked. But instead of giving up, I continued to trust in God's plan. In hindsight, I can see that God was preparing me for something greater. The skills I was developing, the lessons I was learning, and the patience I was learning, and the patience I was cultivating were all part of His plan. When the promotion finally came, it was not just a step up in my career, it was a fulfillment of God's promise and a testament to his faithfulness. Another powerful testimony of God's faithfulness was in my family. We went through a season of financial hardship that seemed never-ending. Bills were piling up and the stress was overwhelming. We didn't know how we were going to make it through, but instead of trying to figure it out on our own, we prayed and trusted that God would provide. And he did. In ways we couldn't have imagined, God opened doors and provided for our needs. Unexpected financial blessings, new job opportunities, and the generosity of friends and family all played a part in our story. Each provision was a reminder that God is our provider and that he cares deeply for us. In relationships, too, I've seen God's hand at work. There were times when I was hurt and felt betrayed by those I trusted. It was tempting to close my heart and build walls of protection, but instead I chose to trust that God would heal my heart and restore what was broken. God's healing power is incredible. He not only mended my broken heart, but also brought new relationships into my life that were filled with love, trust, and mutual respect. These relationships have enriched my life in ways I couldn't have imagined and have been a testament to God's restorative power. One of the most profound experiences of trusting God came during a health crisis. A loved one was diagnosed with a serious illness, and the prognosis was grim. The fear and uncertainty were overwhelming, but instead of giving in to despair, we prayed and trusted God for healing. The journey was not easy, but it was filled with moments of divine intervention. Each doctor's visit, each test result, and each treatment was a reminder that God was in control. There were days of progress and days of setbacks, but through it all, we felt God's presence and peace. Miraculously, our loved one recovered, and it was a powerful testimony of God's healing power and faithfulness. Throughout my journey, I've come to understand that trusting God is a daily decision. It's not a one-time event, but a continuous choice to surrender our worries, fears, and plans to him. Each day brings new challenges and uncertainties, but it also brings new opportunities to trust in God's unfailing love and wisdom. Trusting God also means letting go of our expectations. We often have a picture in our minds of how things should be, and when reality doesn't match up, we feel disappointed. But God's plans are often different from ours, and they are always better. Learning to let go of our expectations and embrace God's plans is a key part of the journey. One of the most beautiful aspects of trusting God is the peace that comes with it. When we stop trying to figure everything out and instead place our trust in God, we experience a peace that surpasses all understanding. It's a peace that guards our hearts and minds even in the midst of chaos and uncertainty. There was a time when I was facing a major life decision and felt completely lost. I prayed for guidance, but no clear answer came. I was frustrated and anxious, unsure of what to do. But then I felt a gentle nudge in my spirit to be still and wait on God. It was a reminder that sometimes the best thing we can do is to stop striving and simply rest in God's presence. In the stillness, I found clarity. God began to reveal his plans to me, not all at once, but step by step. Each small revelation was a reminder that God is always at work, even when we can't see it. Trusting him means being patient and allowing him to unfold his plans in his perfect timing. One of the greatest lessons I've learned is that God's plans are always for our good. Jeremiah 29:11 says, "For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future." This promise has been a source of comfort and strength for me, especially during difficult times. There were moments when I doubted this promise, when the future seemed bleak and hope felt distant. But in those moments, I chose to cling to God's word and trust that he had a plan for my life. Each step of faith, each act of trust brought me closer to experiencing the fullness of God's promises. I've also learned that God's plans often involve a process of refining. It's through the trials and challenges that our faith is tested and strengthened. Just as gold is refined in the fire, so too are we refined through the difficulties we face. Each trial is an opportunity for growth and transformation. One of the most challenging seasons of my life involved a personal betrayal that left me deeply hurt. It was a painful experience, and I struggled to understand why it happened. But as I leaned into God's presence and sought His healing, I began to see how this trial was shaping me. It taught me about forgiveness, resilience, and the power of God's love to heal even the deepest wound. Forgiveness was a key part of this healing process. It wasn't easy, but it was necessary. Holding on to bitterness and resentment only kept me chained to the past. Forgiving those who hurt me was an act of trust, a way of releasing the situation into God's hands and allowing Him to bring healing and restoration. As I forgave, I experienced a new level of freedom and peace. It was a reminder that God's ways are always higher than our ways. He calls us to forgive not just for the sake of others, but for our own healing and wholeness. Trusting God means following His ways even when they're difficult. Another powerful lesson I've learned is the importance of community. God often works through the people around us to provide support, encouragement, and guidance. During my darkest times, I was blessed to have a community of friends and family who prayed for me, encouraged me, and walked alongside me. They were a tangible reminder of God's love and presence. Being part of a faith community also means being vulnerable and allowing others to see our struggles. It's easy to put up a facade and pretend that everything is fine, but true community is built on authenticity and honesty. Sharing our burdens with others and allowing them to pray for us is a powerful way to experience God's love and support. Through the support of my community, I learned that I am never alone. God is always with us, and He often uses others to remind us of His presence. The prayers, encouragement, and love of my community were a testament to God's faithfulness and a source of strength during difficult times. Trusting God also means being open to His leading. Sometimes God calls us to step out in faith and take risks that seem daunting. It's in these moments that our trust is truly tested. Are we willing to follow God's leading, even when it means stepping into the unknown? I remember a time when I felt God calling me to serve in a ministry that was completely outside of my comfort zone. It was a step of faith, and I was filled with doubts and fears. But as I obeyed God's leading, I experienced His provision and guidance in incredible ways. The ministry not only grew, but also became a source of immense joy and fulfillment for me. Each step of faith, each act of obedience was a reminder that God is always with us, guiding and providing for us. Trusting God means being willing to step out in faith even when we don't have all the answers. It means believing that God will work things out for our good even when the path is unclear. One of the most beautiful aspects of trusting God is the way He uses our stories to inspire and encourage others. Our testimonies of faith, perseverance, and God's faithfulness become a source of hope for those who are going through similar struggles. Sharing our stories is a powerful way to glorify God and remind others of His goodness. Throughout my journey, I've had the opportunity to share my testimony with others. Each time, I've seen how God uses my story to touch hearts and encourage those who are facing their own challenges. It's a reminder that our struggles are not in vain. They're part of a greater story that God is writing. One of the most rewarding experiences was speaking to a group of young people who were struggling with their faith. I shared my journey of trusting God through difficult times, and I could see the impact it had on them. Their questions, their tears, and their renewed hope were a testament to the power of sharing our stories. Trusting God also means recognizing that His plans often involve a process of waiting. Waiting is not easy, but it is a crucial part of the journey. It's in the waiting that our faith is tested and strengthened. It's in the waiting that we learn to trust God's timing and believe that He is working behind the scenes. One of the most challenging seasons of waiting for me involved a long-held dream that seemed to be slipping away. I had prayed for years, believing that God would fulfill this dream. But as time passed, it felt like nothing was happening. It was a test of patience and faith. In the waiting, I learned to trust God's timing. I learned that his delays are not his denials. Each day of waiting was an opportunity to draw closer to God, to deepen my faith, and to prepare my heart for the fulfillment of his promises. When the dream finally came to fruition, it was even more beautiful and fulfilling than I had imagined. It was a reminder that God's plans are always worth the wait. Another powerful lesson I've learned is the importance of seeking God's presence. Trusting God means spending time in prayer, reading his word, and cultivating a relationship with him. It's through these practices that we come to know God's heart and experience his guidance and peace. There were times when I felt distant from God, when my prayers seemed to go unanswered and my faith felt weak. But each time I returned to God's presence, I was reminded of his love and faithfulness. Spending time in prayer and in his word became a source of strength and encouragement. One of the most transformative experiences for me was participating in a prayer retreat. It was a time of solitude and reflection, a time to seek God's presence and listen for his voice. During the retreat, I experienced a deep sense of peace and clarity. It was a reminder that God is always with us, ready to guide and comfort us when we seek him. Trusting God also means being open to his healing. There are wounds and hurts that we carry, often for years, that God longs to heal. Trusting him means allowing him to touch those deep places of pain and bring healing and restoration. One of the most profound experiences of healing for me involved a childhood trauma that I had buried for years. It was a source of deep pain and shame. But as I opened my heart to God's healing, I experienced a transformation. God's love and grace healed the wounds of the past and brought a new sense of wholeness and freedom. Trusting God is a journey, one that requires faith, patience, and a willingness to let go of our need to control. It's a journey that transforms us, strengthens our faith, and deepens our relationship with God. My story is a testament to the power of trusting God. It's a journey filled with challenges and uncertainties, but also with incredible moments of divine intervention, healing, and fulfillment. I encourage you to let go and allow God to work in your life. He is faithful, and his plans for you are good. Life's challenges can seem impossible, but remember, you don't have to figure it all out on your own. Trust in God, for he is faithful. My journey is a testament to his power, grace, and unwavering love. When you let go and let God, you will see his hand at work in ways you could never imagine. Allow him to guide you, provide for you, and heal you. Trusting God is not just a decision, it's a lifestyle. Embrace it and watch as he transforms your life into a beautiful testimony of his glory. Thank you for joining me on this journey of trust and faith. I hope my story has inspired and encouraged you to let go and allow God to work in your life. Remember, you don't have to have all the answers. God's plans for you are far greater than anything you could ever imagine. Trust him, lean on his promises, and watch as he moves mountains for you. If you've been blessed by this message, please like, share, and subscribe to our channel for more inspirational content. Leave a comment below and share your own stories of trusting God. I'd love to hear from you and continue this journey together. And always remember, no matter what you're facing, you are never alone. God is with you, working behind the scenes, and he will see you through. Stay encouraged, stay faithful, and keep trusting in God's perfect plan for your life. Until next time, be blessed and keep shining his light.